All right, brothers and sisters, how we doing today? I wanted to get into a short discussion, and the discussion is going to be about Romans the 14th chapter. My wife and I were talking, and she posed some question to me because she's heard so-called Christians, and I'm not beating up on anybody's belief or their faith. I'm just giving edification. But she have heard so-called Christians say that, well, you can eat anything, and they'll use Romans the 14th chapter to justify that. So what we're going to do is we're going to get a proper understanding of what's really going on here. We're going to use the scriptures, and break this down. But before I get into that, let me give all glory and honor to the Heavenly Father Yahweh, to Son Yahweh Shai. I'd like to also send out peace and greetings to the brothers and sisters that are pushing this truth, trying to wake up the very elect. Okay? So, now dealing with Romans the 14th chapter, or any scripture in the Bible, if we don't apply a law to it, we're going to get our interpretation. If you don't apply a law to what you're reading, you're going to get your interpretation. And that's our problem. We don't want law. We want to operate outside of law, according to the Most High. But we'll follow man or this man's law, and we won't have no problem with that. Anyway, dealing with law, and I'll probably do a lesson on this here, but right now I'm just going to give you an overview. There's 5 principles of law. There's moral law, judgment, ceremonial, sacrificial, and dietary. Moral, judgment, sacrificial, ceremonial, and dietary. That's the 5 principles of law. Okay. So when you're coming across the scriptures and you're reading stuff and you're not understanding how law plays its role into the discussion, you're going to get your interpretation 9 times out of 10. You're going to get your interpretation. So with that being said, let's go get Romans the 14th chapter. And we're going to start off at verse 1. Romans 14 and 1. He that is weak in the faith receive ye, but not to be doubtful disputation. So, in other words, no arguments, right? Okay. For one believe that he may eat all things. This is where they get that from. For one believe that he can eat all things. Now, first and foremost, most of you guys want to eat all things anyway. But we're not talking about all things. It's talking about all things according to the dietary law. Because there's a law. There's a dietary law. We'll get that later on in this discussion. But this is the basis of the conversation, not about the dietary law. It's about a person that can eat meat, a person that eats meats, and a person that eats vegetables. But let's let the scriptures edify that. Okay. For one believe that he may eat all things. Another, who is weak, eat herbs. So again, one who's weak in the faith may eat meat, or one weak in the faith may eat herbs. So a meat eater versus a vegetarian. When it says weak in the faith, it's talking about somebody who, more or less, they're not as knowledgeable of maybe another person. It's not that they're struggling with their faith necessarily. It's mean they're not as learned as others may be. So you're not supposed to be. We're gonna let the word. Let's go ahead and read it. Let's break it down. Okay, let not him that eateth despise him that eateth not, and let not him which eateth not judge him that eateth. For God hath received him. Who art thou that judgest another man's servant? To his own master he stands or falls. Yea, he shall be held upon, for God is able to make him stand. So we see that it's talking about, let not one who eats meat or one who is a vegetarian judge, or them judging one another. That's basically what it's saying. Don't be judging each other. You know what I'm saying? Especially if they're weak in the faith. When it meaning they're not as knowledgeable as or learned as you may be. But you're supposed to be helping them by teaching and edifying and rebuking and correcting. Remember, judgment is an action. Judgment is an action. Somebody correcting you is not judging you. Somebody edifying you is not judging you. Somebody's teaching you, not judging you. Judgment is an action. Okay? So, let's go to Colossians 2 and 16. Let's go to Colossians 2 and 16. Colossians 2 and 16, and it reads, "Let no man therefore judge you in meat or in drink or respect of holy day or any new moon or the new moon or of the Sabbath days." Which the Sabbath days and the holy days, that's a whole nother lesson. I'm not going to go into that today. But anyway, was telling you, let no man judge you, because that's what our forefathers were doing with one another. They was judging each other, harshly, because one may have been more learned in, celebrating a high holy day or a Sabbath or the new moon or of a meat offering or drink. One was more learned than the other. So instead of edifying and teaching them, they was judging one another. Okay? So, which happens to go on in Israel nowadays today, the same old stuff. A lot of brothers judging one another instead of teaching and edifying. And when I say judgment, again, let me correct myself. It's not that they're judging, it's that they come with a spirit of disputation, of arguing. That's what I want to say. They come with a spirit of arguing instead of teaching. When you correct somebody, you're supposed to be teaching them in love. You're supposed to be correcting them in love. Not you put him down and you're condemning him. That's what a lot of brothers in Israel do. But anyway, so let's go, because again, it's about the dietary. Because people use that Romans 4, the 14th chapter, to say, well, I can eat all things. There was never a discussion amongst our forefathers about, well, I can eat shrimp, or I can eat catfish, or I can eat pork. There's never a discussion about that. So our people that use that in religion, they don't apply the law. That's why they get their interpretation. So again, let's go to Leviticus. Let's go to Leviticus 11. Let's go to Leviticus 11. And we're going to start off at verse 1. "And the Lord spoke unto Moses and to Aaron, saying unto them, Speak unto the children of Israel, saying, These are the beasts which ye shall eat among all the beasts that are on the earth." So again, this is what Romans, the 14th chapter, was saying when it says they can eat everything or eat all things. That's what it's talking about. So we're gonna break down the all things that it's talking about. Okay. Okay, verse 3. "Whatsoever parteth the hoof, and is cloven-footed, and cheweth the cud among the beasts that ye shall eat." So these are the beasts that ye shall eat. So when it's talking about all things, we need to go back and see what are the all things that it's talking about. Okay? "Nevertheless, these shall ye not eat of them that chew the cud, or of them that divided the hoof, as the camel." So the camel, because the camel, it chewed the cud, but it's one of the animals you can't eat. Why? Because he chewed the cud, but divided not the hoof. He's unclean to you. Now we get a better understanding. See, until you apply law to the discussion, you're not going to get nothing but your interpretation. So let's read further. Okay. Verse 5. And the cunning, because he chewed the cud, but divideth not the hoof, he is unclean to you. And the hare, because he chewed the cud, but divideth not the hoof, he is unclean to you. And the swine, though he divided the hoof, and be cloven footed, yet he cheweth not the cud, he is unclean to you. Okay, so that's what it's talking about. So when you want to understand the dietary law, then it goes into the, the animal, the birds, the fowls of the air, or the fish of the sea. So we're not going to go through all that today. But again, if you want to understand what's being said in Romans the 14th chapter, that's the argument. That's the argument right there. So we dealt with the meat part. So now let's go to the vegetarians. Let's go to Genesis, the first chapter. Let's go to Genesis 1. And we're going to start off at verse 29. And God said, Behold, I give you every herb bearing seed, which is upon the face of all the earth, and every tree, in that which is, in the which is the fruit of the tree yielding seed, to you it shall be for meat. So here it is. This is the argument that the brothers and sisters are having in Romans the 14th chapter, because the brothers and sisters who are vegetarians, they'll go and read. They was telling the brothers and sisters, hey, well, according to Genesis Bereshit 1:29, God gave us the fruits and the vegetables and the seed-bearing plants to eat. So this is the argument. So let's edify that even more. So let's go to Genesis 9. Let's go to Genesis 9. Genesis 9, and we're going to start off at verse 2. And the fear of you and the bread of you shall be upon every beast of the earth, and upon every fowl of the air, upon all that moveth upon the earth, and upon all the fish of the sea, into your hand are they delivered. Every moving thing that liveth shall be meat for you. Even as the green herbs have I given you all things. So this is what the brothers who are meat eaters were saying. Well, according to Genesis 9 chapter, we can eat these meats. You know what I'm saying? So it was never an argument about eating shrimp or eating catfish or eating all things, as some people use that scripture and butcher it up. That's not what the debate was. The debate was according to the dietary law. Brothers who were vegetarians and brothers who were meat eaters, or sisters, whoever were meat eaters, there was a disputation, an argument among them. And you don't want to be a stumbling block to somebody who's weak in the faith or weak in their knowledge. You know what I'm saying? They're not as learned. You know what I'm saying? You're supposed to be edifying, teaching, correcting, reproof. That's what you're supposed to be doing. So anyway, I hope you guys got the lesson. I hope it makes sense to you. Like, comment, share, dislike, whatever. But the main thing is for you guys to do your own due diligence and study to show thyself approval. With that being said, peace, love, shalom.